Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for February 21st. February 21st is the 52nd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 313 days remaining to the end of the year, 314 if it happens to be a leap year. Mardi Gras occurs today, February 21st in 2023. We actually lived in New Orleans for a year when I was a kid, and I remember seeing those banners all up and down Canal Street that said Mardi Gras. Of course, it's spelled Mardigras. So, being a silly kid at the time, I liked to pronounce it Mardi Gras. My parents finally said, okay, that's enough. It was funny the first 1,000 or so times, and now it's getting old, so cut it out. Mardi Gras. We lived about 3 houses off Canal Street in a house that's not there anymore. We took a step ladder down to Canal Street so that I could get up high enough to see the parade. My dad held my little sister on his shoulders. She was so young, I bet she doesn't remember that. I'll have to ask her. Mardi Gras is quite a thing. So, what's Mardi Gras all about then? Mardi Gras is French for Fat Tuesday. You see, Lent is coming right up, and there's a cultural, religious, spiritual practice of sacrificing or giving things up for Lent. Mardi Gras represents the practice of the last night of eating rich, fatty foods before the ritual Lenten sacrifices and fasting of the Lenten season. Mardi Gras. Today's word is memorator. Memorator can be an adjective or an adverb. In either case, it has to do with memory. As an adjective, memorator means involving or requiring memorization, as in giving a memorator talk. As an adverb, memorator means by memory, by heart, the way we used to learn those multiplication tables. As in, she learned those verses memorator by heart. The word memorator comes to us from Latin. First known use was in the 1600s. Memorator. And with that, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels published the Communist Manifesto on February 21st, 1848. I'm not sure who they were mad at exactly, but it's kept stuff stirred up ever since. The first telephone directory was issued in New Haven, Connecticut on February 21st, 1878. We always called them phone books growing up. You had your white pages with the residential numbers, and then the yellow pages, which contained the business listings. Most families kept their phone book near the telephone, one per household, which was wired to the wall. The telephone, not the phone book. If the phone wasn't mounted on the wall, it was still wired to the wall. Nowadays, we call such a phone a landline, and fewer folks still have landlines these days. The New Yorker magazine published its first issue on February 21st, 1920. New Yorker is a weekly magazine with commentary, criticism, essays, fiction, and cartoons. Well, I should say it started out weekly back then, but now it's published 47 times a year, and 5 of those issues cover a 2-week span. New Yorker magazine is typically focused on the cultural life of New York City and enjoyed a wide audience outside of New York as well. On February 21st, 1958, the symbol that we now know as the peace symbol or peace sign was commissioned as a logo for the British Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, or CND. The symbol was adopted by anti-war and counterculture activists in the 1960s and 70s and currently enjoys a resurgence in popularity. How about that? Today's song is Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. Written by Paul Simon in 1969 and inspired by gospel influences, Bridge Over Troubled Waters was recorded in 1969 and released in January of 1970. The title song on their final album together, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, enjoyed 6 weeks in the number 1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 in February and March of 1970, and ended up the number 1 song on Billboard's year-end chart of pop singles for 1970. The album Bridge Over Troubled Waters became one of the world's best-selling albums. On a bittersweet note, this amazing success began during the lead up to Simon and Garfunkel's breakup in 1970. They've gotten back together briefly a few times, but more as collaborative performances rather than actually getting back together. An amazing song, though, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. If this is a new song to you, or if it's been a while since you've heard it, there is a link in the description. Bridge Over Troubled Waters by Simon and Garfunkel. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with the link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include the link to my blog page that is called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, Parler, BitChute, and Getter. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Do not disturb.
Okay, I turned Do Not Disturb on.
Good job. I would like to take a moment to encourage you to like that share button. Okay. January 2nd. The 16th. It's all written in Roman numerals, so I had to translate it. Hopefully I got that pronunciation close. Yeah, Annie's ready to go. Flinging happiness all over the place. Alrighty, back to work.